guys, this is Frequently Missed Questions Explained for Chapter 13. And today I'm only going to go over 4 questions because it looks like other than those 4 questions, everybody did really well on this assignment. So if you have any questions about stuff that's not covered in this video, please feel free to email me and I will explain the question for you. The first one that we're going to go over is what is stereotype threat? And the top 2 answers here were feeling threatened by stereotypes that others hold of our group and feeling threatened by people who confirm our stereotypes. So the correct answer is this top one here, feeling threatened by stereotypes that others hold of our group. This is a really important distinction because it's not necessarily the people that are holding the stereotypes, it is the stereotypes themselves that are the problem. So I'll give you guys a little bit of an example. I studied abroad in the Netherlands for a little while during my undergraduate career, and I thought that the Dutch people had very different stereotypes of Americans than they actually do. They think that we are overly warm when we have interactions, just like service interactions. Like, for example, like at Starbucks, they always ask you how you're doing and that kind of stuff. That would be viewed kind of weird in Dutch culture. They don't exchange that many pleasantries when they have interactions. And so I thought that they held these very different stereotypes of what American was doing and what American was supposed to act like. And when I got there, I found that it was only me holding that stereotype, feeling threatened by that stereotype that others held, rather than feeling threatened by the actual people, because it turned out they didn't actually hold those stereotypes at all, but it was still harmful to me at the time. Which of these ways of thinking can reduce the power of stereotype threat? So this top answer right here, the 68% one, this is being aware that anxiety about tests is normal, especially for members of a stereotyped groups. So this is actually one of the really cool cases of social psych where knowing about it can actually solve the problem. That doesn't happen a lot of the time, so this is kind of an interesting and special case. And that's the way I remember this one, honestly, is this is one of the only ones that you can reduce the stereotype threat by just knowing about it. So next time you're taking a test, think about that one. Inflating your confidence in your abilities to count others' expectations. One of the reasons why stereotype threat works is that it makes you anxious. There's arousal there, and then it kind of trips you up. So inflating your own confidence would actually increase arousal even more, and may not work for the actual, when it comes to the actual test. All right, our next question here is Rebecca is covering her college's football game against its arch rival for the school newspaper. At the game, she interviews 6 students from her college, but decides she needs to interview only 1 student from the rival school to represent their view of the game. Rebecca is demonstrating, and this top answer, the one with 76% right here, is outgroup homogeneity, and that is the correct answer. Another answer that people seem to give was the in-group bias, and I'll talk just a little bit about the difference between those two and how we know from this question that they're looking for outgroup homogeneity versus in-group bias. So Rebecca is demonstrating outgroup homogeneity here because they're talking about how she knows the opinion of each side. So she's got her own in-group and the out-group. And she decides to interview 6 students from her own in-group, so her own college, and decides that in order to represent the views of the whole student body, she decides she needs 6 students. But she decides she needs to interview only 1 student from the rival school, and the assumption she's making there is that only 1 person can accurately represent the views of the entire outgroup, which is obviously inaccurate. And so here she's demonstrating outgroup homogeneity. And the difference between that one and in-group bias, if in this example there was some sort of reward, she was giving out some sort of rewards and she was awarding more money or resources to her own school versus the other school, then that would be an example of in-group bias. But the reason that we know that they're talking about outgroup homogeneity here is because they're talking about 1 student from the rival school is representing the view. So the view is the commodity we're working with. If it was something like money or attention or something that you could reward to somebody or take away from somebody else, then that would be in-group bias. Okay, what is one of the main reasons that the jigsaw method is effective? They're talking about the jigsaw method, they often use it in elementary school classrooms to sort of break down in-group and out-group perceptions. And basically, it's where each member of a group or member of different groups has something to contribute to the overall project. So when I think about the jigsaw method, I actually think about like the jigsaw classroom. And I envision children running around and interacting and things like that. So think about that. And then the reason that we know that it requires kids to break down those in-group versus out-group perceptions is because they have to work together for a common goal with somebody from the out-group. They actually need each other. That's an important part of the jigsaw method, because if they are just interacting and they don't actually need things from the other group, then this method doesn't work at all, and it doesn't break down stereotypes at all. So if they don't have a problem to solve together, like as evidenced in the second answer here, they do tend to behave politely, but those in-group, out-group perceptions remain the same. And although it does, this type of activity could set rules for good behavior, that's not quite the point of doing the jigsaw method here.